Coming up on Tech News Today, Google Maps is getting a tad more social. Also, Facebook is reportedly striking some licensing deals with record labels. Wonder what they're working on. Most of Prince's music library is now hitting streaming services. We go hands-on with the LG Watch Sport and staring our cyborg future in the cyborg eye. All that and more coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1704, recorded Monday, February 13th, 2017.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. When it comes to the big decision of choosing a mortgage lender, work with one that has your best interest in mind. Use Rocket Mortgage for a transparent, trustworthy home loan process that's completely online at quickenloans.com/TNT.
And by Grasshopper. Stay connected and run your business from your mobile phone with Grasshopper. To save $50 on your order, visit trygrasshopper.com/twit.
Welcome. Come on in. We got some tech news to talk about.
Sit down.
Yes,
we have
please.
a seat for you.
Please sit down or stand up if you prefer. This is Tech News Today. We talk about tech news. I'm Megan Maroney.
And I'm Jason Howell. I've got a heavy weight on my wrist. I'm not going to show it to you. I'm just going to let you stir through this first half of the show and wonder, what weight is he talking about? But I got to say, like, my arm's getting tired.
Yeah, and it's round. Spoiler.
Whatever that weight is, it's round. That's like the worst news of all.
Shall we get to the good news?
Oh, yeah.
Google wants to give you one more reason to use its Maps app. Now you can make organized lists of places you've been or places you're going. You can plan trips, share them with friends. The company has just launched Lists. Of course, it's called Lists because that's what they do. They name things because that's what they are, lists. It's not confusing at all. It aims to make Google Maps not just a tool to help you get somewhere, but to help you to figure out where you want to go. And then you could check off some more items from your bucket list. I think this will be useful once it comes out. I've been waiting for my update all day. It's supposed to come out today to iOS and Android. I have not gotten it yet. This is intriguing because more and more I'm seeing a lot of little things that one big app does, so it's like Google Maps, you don't used to have, like I have lots of little apps that can do this for me. I used an app called Soon that you can put in all the restaurants that you want to go to, all the places, all the movies you want to see. This doesn't really work for movies you want to see, but places you want to go, restaurants you want to go, you can make your lists within the app. So it's like we're moving away from this scattered world of a million different apps to just use Google Maps because it does all these things for you.
Yeah, I guess the risk there is feature creep, where an app gets so big and so bloated with all these features that you don't even know half of them that exist in there, and they don't end up getting used. And then we know that Google likes to remove things when people are using them sometimes. So, I suppose that's the risk. I think personally, Google Maps is one of my all-time favorite of the apps that Google actually makes. I think most of the features that end up in there are added very thoughtfully. They're there for a purpose. They're there for a reason. I just think it's one of their premier apps, and this is another great feature. Interesting that that kind of is bringing a little bit more of a social component into the Maps thing. I mean, Google owns Waze, and that kind of has a social component, which some of those social elements aren't integrated directly into Maps, but there are pieces that are coming in from Waze. So I don't know what this means about the future of Maps kind of veering potentially more into a social direction. I doubt it's going to be a full-blown social network, but I'm intrigued at the idea of sharing lists and stuff because we all, I don't know, it would be nice if someone was coming to town, let's say, to create a list of the best restaurants in town. If you're not going to be around or whatever, just share the list with them, and you can do that now.
Or like how many times people are like, I'm going to San Francisco, what should I do?
Yeah, where should I go?
Yeah, and like I ask you all the time, like, I'm going out to dinner in San Francisco, where should I go? And you give me you tell me where I should go, and then the next time I have to ask you again, and then I have to ask you again because I forget. And this way we don't have to talk to each other as much.
Yeah, exactly. You'll say you're going to San Francisco, where should I go? And I'll be like, hold on. And then I'll put this wall up in front of us, and I'll spend 20 minutes creating a list. You've got that going forward, and we never have to talk about it again.
Perfect.
that went weird there at the end. We actually do like talking to each other, so that's why it's strange. At least I can speak for myself, Megan. Facebook has been in talks with the record labels going back as far as 2015, with rumors then pointing to a possible music streaming service, because everybody's doing a music streaming service. At least they were a couple of years ago. That actually never materialized. But now it sounds like Facebook is still negotiating with labels, this time to secure the rights to copyrighted music so that its users can legitimately use that music in their own uploaded videos. This really just reminds me a lot of what YouTube has gone through as a video sharing service, users sharing all sorts of copyrighted music, either standalone, like, hey, listen to this track, or as part of like the accompanying background music for something that they edited. And then of course YouTube, brought something called Content ID that kind of matches all of that content. If they have a true license deal with the labels, then they can scour the content that they have on the site. And if something matches, then you can, with that license is basically monetizing that music, that copyrighted material, so that the artist then gets paid instead of not getting paid for it. So I think this is a good move.
I'm not exactly sure how it works. So, like, let's say I wanted to come up with a compilation of photos and then add, a Green Day song to it, for example. Mm-hmm. And then I put that on Facebook. So I'm allowed to then do that. And then does Facebook pay Green Day, or do I pay? I mean, nobody pays Green Day. Does Facebook pay the record company?
Yeah, Green Day hardly sees any of that. No.
Well, does Facebook pay the record
company,
I would
say
or
that's
do I pay the record? So it's free for me.
Yeah, supplemented with other things that the network does to make money, right? It's in this case, I think it's about keeping users happy. If users are creating, collages or compilation videos of their favorite moments when they went to Tahiti as a family or whatever, and they use Time of My Life as the background soundtrack, which is what I would use.
That's what
I'm a big Bette Midler fan. We haven't talked about that. We'll talk about that another time. If they're going to do that, that's going to make a user happy. What a user doesn't want is to upload that and then 2 minutes later be told that's been rejected because you've used copyright music. I think a user would be more inclined to share a lot more if they don't run into those hurdles. And so it behooves a company like Facebook to make the deals so that they can do that and do it legitimately, because they're not going to be able to open it up illegitimately, at least not for very long.
I don't like this at all.
Oh, okay. You don't like Time of Our Life? Or
No,
Time
I
of
do.
My Life?
I do. I do like the song. And I'm surprised because I'm not the musician of the two of us. You are, because I feel like... I'm going to say kids these days, they don't understand about music, and they think that they can get any music anytime, like open Apple Music, open Spotify. It's all there for me. Mm-hmm. There's no connection. And then I think this is the last step to that, because then it's like, I can go on Facebook, or, they make a deal with Facebook, then they'll make a deal with Snapchat or Instagram. And then they go and then they just, I can put this music on my whatever and upload it. And it's like, someone made that music, an artist made that music, and there needs to be, I feel like, some connection to the fact that they're using that. But I don't know. I mean, like when I was, we grew up without Facebook or
We grew up
YouTube.
with mixtapes, Megan.
We did, but also...
Did you ever have a mixtape?
Of course.
Lots of songs on a tape?
Yeah.
Compiled for you, probably. And any time you listened to it, I guarantee you that artist wasn't getting paid. Not that
Right, that's true.
Not that that's like... That excuses it. However, what this is doing is kind of tackling, if this happens, by the way, this is just in talks. This hasn't happened yet. Mm-hmm. But what this is doing is addressing what your concern is, essentially. It's saying if someone does decide to use the music in their piece and uploads it, that music is recognized first, matched to copyrighted music that exists, and because of the licensing deal that Facebook has with the label, they are officially paid for it. How does that trickle down to the artist? I mean, that's a bigger question of how the music industry is just really bad at paying its artists, and way more than thinking of the artist thinks of themselves in that equation.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
So I think it's better than not having it. If
yes, it is better than not having it. You're right. I mean, I was just thinking about, like, I made, compilations of, baby pictures 14 years ago of my daughter, and then like put a song on it. But I would just share it with my family, like
Yeah.
there wasn't a time where I would upload that to thousands of people or anything. So it's the same way of just like, what are you sharing in your living room versus
Yeah.
what are you sharing, to a large group of people.
It's the digital world we live in right now. We share
is.
everything to everyone.
It's true.
It's just so I think from that perspective, it behooves the labels to get in on it too, because there will always be people trying to do that. At least if they allow for it in some sort of legitimate way, then they stand and the artists stand to make something off of it. What is the inherent value of that? Like are artists happy with what they get out of that? That's an entirely different question. And I think at the core of that is, are the labels operating with the artist's best interests in mind? And I don't necessarily think they always are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's, Musical.ly. You've heard of Musical.ly, right? That's the young kids. Like that's the before Snapchat, before Instagram, and kids lip sync and they share it, or they share it publicly. That's what I've never understood. Like all that music is copyrighted music, but they're all sharing it with each other and no one cares.
I bet you they have a license. They must have some sort of a licensing deal. With the labels to allow for that. Okay. I mean, otherwise, yeah, you're right. It's a full-on copyrighted, infringing service, and they're making money. Musical.ly is a really successful social network.
Well, you know who else didn't like streaming?
Good segue.
Prince. And nearly a year after Prince's death, all of the singer's music is now, his music that was on the Warner Brothers label is now available to stream on Spotify, Apple Music, and Pandora. Now, Prince was notorious in his lack of support for streaming services. Before their full release, Prince's music was only available on Tidal. Now, along with his, he was honored at the Grammys. And they also honored him by doing exactly what he didn't want with his music.
You can blame his estate for that. His estate, I mean, a year after his passing, his estate has decided to cash in, is what it seems like to me. Whether that's good or bad, I suppose that's up to everyone to decide. But I know that a lot of listeners are very happy to have access to Prince's catalog because Prince has a ton of albums. I mean, 25 hitting right here. That's not that doesn't include a bunch of newer catalog stuff like New Millennium stuff. And then they have the rights to a bunch of unreleased stuff. So there's going to be multiple unreleased albums. I mean, this is total cash in as far as I'm concerned. But the estate's happy. I don't know if Prince is very happy.
We don't know. If anyone talks to him, let us know.
Yeah, let us know what Prince says if you see him.
Well, Burke has a comment on this story.
He says doves are. Burke says doves are crying. He doesn't have a camera because I'm going to be showing something off here in a little bit. Burke says that doves are in fact crying right now, and there's probably some truth to that. Apple iPhone rumor time. First, the upcoming iPhone, after 10 years iPhone, the iPhone 8, I guess, supposed to be a really big iPhone, by the way. It's basically said to include wireless charging. Some have said that it's going to include wireless charging anyways for the first time. And wouldn't you know it, Apple is now officially listed as a member of the Wireless Power Consortium. That, many believe, is a strong hint that some upcoming Apple device could include the Qi charging standard. However, a report last year from Bloomberg also hinted that Apple might be working on its own standard to allow the phone to be wirelessly charged when not resting on a charging mat. That sounds intriguing right there. That would be really cool. Although there would be a lot of efficiency loss if you wasn't directly on a mat. But more and more, it sounds like the new iPhone's going to have wireless charging. What do you think?
Yeah, Leo just gave an excellent explanation of this in iOS Today. You can download that later today, where he gave an example of how it the power degrades over, as you move away from the power source, or else, also just shooting all that electricity in the air.
Into the air.
Is not so good.
Potentially,
yeah. I mean, what I really liked was the non-proprietary charging. Like I liked that I could borrow Victor's, charging mat for the Moto 360 minibar and just lay it on there, which was nice. I like that you don't have to plug anything into the Apple Watch; that it's just you lay it down there. But it's not that big of a deal for me. I'm more excited about the other rumors, like the glass. Like I think a sheet of glass iPhone would be cool. I'm not so excited.
All around sheet of glass.
Yeah,
I hadn't heard that rumor.
That's just a rumor. Who knows? But
Oh, that sounds like my nightmare right there.
I know it does. Yeah. But I
Guarantee
don't.
I'd break
Also, the price. I mean, the base model of that fancy phone is going to start at $1,000. Like, that's where we are now. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there are other ways that it might be more expensive too. Another rumor is that the new iPhone would have a curved OLED screen similar to that found on Samsung's Galaxy S7 Edge and the Note 7. May it rest in pieces. Samsung has reportedly earned an order from Apple for 60 million OLED panels on top of another 100 million panels Apple reportedly purchased last April. Together, that would mean that Samsung might be the main supplier of displays for the new iPhone. When you're considering, 160 million total panels, that's approximately somewhere around 80% of the total iPhone display demand. In the past, iPhones have sold right around 200 million units more than that number, but right around there. And so that's a pretty big payday for Samsung to get in on all the iPhones, essentially. $11.3 billion order for the two deals.
Yeah. I mean, whatever you say about Apple, people like iPhones, and they keep buying them. And the Apple's doing really well. Like, they closed today. They opened today at their highest closing stock price, which was crazy.
Wow.
They're going to make $980 billion in sales just
I'm
today.
not impressed until it's trillion, which is going to be soon.
I'm just kidding. I said they were going to make $980 billion sales just today because I like hyperbole, but that's over the last 10 years.
You do like hyperbole.
I do.
I've noticed that about you. Well, so are either of these features like, I must have that? Do you really want an OLED curved display?
No.
You don't really care?
I don't really care. I like the iPhone 7.
You just want a new iPhone. If there's a new iPhone, you want it.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I like the iPhone 7. I like the 6S. I like the 6. Yeah, and if there's a new one, I will probably get it.
What about the reverse, like potentially the reverse criticism that could be applied to Apple if it comes out with a curved display of saying, oh, well, so you're trying to be Samsung? Because usually we're used to hearing it in the other direction.
Well, it's kind of gone both ways, right? I mean, Yeah, I don't really care about the curved display. I mean, I've heard more complaints. It does look nice, but like a lot of people say, like it's hard, like they
unintentional, phantom touches, as they say. Yeah.
Now, in what appears to be a part of the HBO show Silicon Valley, Bloomberg reports that Google paid some self-driving car employees so much money that they quit. According to sources, the company had a compensation system that multiplied salaries and bonuses based on meeting milestones, even though the self-driving car project is still a long way from generating any income. Now, some of those who took off with their millions included the founder of Otto, which was bought by Uber, and Argo AI, which was just acquired by Ford. So I get that engineers are in high demand, but this is crazy that they would pay them so much money that they would just say, I don't need this job. I can go somewhere else. But I mean, there's the other argument to say that they really didn't want to work for Google anymore, and they could leave in that sense and go. These people didn't just say like, "Oh, I got so much money, I'm going to go and sit on my couch for the rest of my life." Like, they went and founded their own company, which is appealing to a lot of people. And I think that that to me is what probably happened. People want autonomy, and if you give them no pun intended. But if you give them if you give them enough money to start their own company and possibly fail, they probably will.
Yeah, it's kind of like a situation where it was a perfect storm in that regard. These engineers that were on early enough with the autonomous driving effort at Google were working on something that really not many, if any, other companies were working on at that kind of velocity. Coupled with the fact that Google, did some incredibly, generous compensation things. They tied the compensation to the performance of the car project, not to Google's advertising business. So the more that they were able to do developing the autonomous vehicle project, the better they get paid. They had their salaries, bonuses, equity, all awarded as a separate entity. And then after many years, Google actually multiplied the value of that stuff and paid out some, if not all of it. So it was like all that cash up front on top of the fact that these people were doing something that no one was necessarily doing when they started the project. So they had this high learning capability out of this project. And then by the time they probably left, there were so many competitors in the space that wanted to get in. They were willing to pay top dollars for anyone who was that experienced. And so it was just, perfect storm.
Yeah, but some of these people, they didn't go somewhere else. They started their own thing.
Right.
And so I think this really gets at, what we talk about universal basic income a lot, and like how the future of work. And I think, that's crazy. And people will call me a socialist when I say everyone should get paid just to live. But I do think that it is true that you can't just pay someone. No matter how much money you pay someone, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to stay. It's just like people, we're humans, and yes, like we need the money to survive and everything. But at the heart, I think a lot of us are just we want to be happy in our jobs. And like I said, we want autonomy. We want, and so it's like, you can't just say like, oh, I'm going to pay them so much money that they will never leave, because that's not how humans work.
Well, and especially like if someone's willing to pay you so much money that you'll never want to leave, then as a human, you realize that your talents and your abilities have so much value to someone. What does that take? What is that in the free market? And what is that outside of this particular thing? You've already done that. How can that be applied? You end up opening up your own. It's like Snapchat turning down $3 billion from Facebook, which sounded so ridiculous. But in Snapchat's mind, Snapchat says, well, we can make way more than that if we just stick with this alone. We know we're worth that to Facebook. Then yeah, let's stick in this on our own, because we're going to be able to do that tenfold.
Yeah, and when I would argue that sometimes it's not about the money, and and if you watch Silicon Valley, it's like I want to do something on my own. Like I want to. I don't want to work for a giant company. That's that's part of why I love working here. It's really nice to have just the ability to do the things that we want to do. And yes, like maybe we could go somewhere else and make a lot more money, but this is a great place just because you can be creative. And I think a lot of people feel that way. And so I think, yes, basing someone's salary on how much you want them to stay at a job doesn't make a lot of sense.
It might make sense at the time, but yeah, it's the kind of the human necessity or the kind of direction that you go when you're in that position, I imagine, is very different from that.
After the break, noted Apple Watch fan Jason Howell has a review of the latest version of Android Wear. But first, let's take a minute to thank Rocket Mortgage, the sponsor of this episode. Now, we've been looking for a new home. We're also selling our home, and I cannot stress enough the importance of being pre-approved. I am pre-approved. I can buy your home. Now, if you think you might be buying a new home, and even if you're waiting until the spring or sometime in the future, it's a good idea to get pre-approved now so that you're ready. One easy and incredibly geeky way to do that is with Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. When it comes to the biggest decision of your life, that's choosing a mortgage lender sometimes, and it's important to work with someone you can trust who has your best interest in mind. With Rocket Mortgage, you'll get a transparent online process that gives you the confidence to make an informed decision. Don't waste time searching through stacks of paperwork. With Rocket Mortgage, you can securely share your financial information to get a mortgage approval in minutes. You can even adjust the rate and the length of your loan in real time to make sure you get the mortgage solution that's right for you, just right for you. Now, whether you're looking to buy a home or refinance your existing mortgage, you can lift the burden of getting a home loan with Rocket Mortgage. Skip the bank, skip the waiting, go completely online at quickenloans.com/TNT. That's quickenloans.com/TNT. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org, number 3030. And we thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans for their support.
All right, Leo this weekend picked up his LG Sport Watch, one of the Android Wear 2.0 launch smartwatches. I threw the watch on my wrist about 3 hours ago before showtime. Leo had enough, apparently, and decided to let me kind of take it for a spin for a little bit. So I'm planning on giving it a thorough review. It's hard for me to turn my wrist other than this sideways shot. So hopefully this is good for you guys. But thought we could talk about it a little bit because this is kind of the harbinger of the next wave of Android Wear 2.0. This is a collaboration watch. This is the LG Watch Sport, one of two LG watches that were kind of launch devices, made a collaboration between LG and Google. And so it's the larger of the two. And I don't know if you can see it on my wrist here. I'll show it real quick. You can kind of see it's a little bulky. In fact, I'll show you next to the Moto 360.
I thought that one was bulky.
So that is interesting, right?
Yeah.
Like you thought the Moto 360 was bulky. Check that out. It's like twice as thick as the Moto 360.
Can you take the watch off? Would that help? Or
What do you mean? Oh, with the
so we
side-
can see it.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, I wanted to get the kind of initial shot on the wrist.
Does it have a
but-
password?
I have a password because I have Android Pay set up with it. So it'll probably ask me for a password as I start thumbing around on it now that I took it off my wrist. I didn't think about that. Anyways, so what do we have here? So it's an Android Wear 2. It's a 1.38-inch circular OLED screen. There, we'll get that away because it's now locked onto my pin. IP68 certified, water and dust resistant. 430 milliamp hour battery, which I have to imagine is part of the reason why it's so dang thick. Although, I mean, I can't remember what the Moto 360 was, but it probably wasn't much less than that. So I think part of the bulk is because it has a 4G LTE antenna in there. Thank you. There is a SIM card in here, so I can receive phone calls on it. I've got it connected to my Android, my Google Voice account, so phone calls can come in here, and I can take it right off my wrist. It's also got NFC, so I can use it for Android Pay. Wireless charging, of course. I just set it on top of the thing and it charges. It's also got the heart rate monitor underneath, which I'll probably hardly ever use. A microphone on the side. So the microphone on the side is useful. You might cut away from me for a second so I can enter in my pin, because now that it's off my wrist, I'm going to have to do that. Okay, so the microphone on the side here, because it has assistant, so I can hold this down and, jeez.
Can you hold your
Apparently
finger?
I can't keep it off my wrist.
With the Apple Watch, you can hold your finger against it and it thinks that's your wrist.
Well, that would be a great idea. Let me do that. So design. While I do this, design. What do you think, Megan?
Is it a fitness watch because it's so heavy and hard to carry around? Like you walk around and you burn calories because it's so heavy?
It's like walking around with weights on your arm, basically. And as you go throughout the course of your day, you build up your biceps just by lifting this watch up to look at it. Okay, let's just hold it down.
A smartwatch should be rectangular like a phone. It should not be round.
I know. This is how you feel.
But
This is you think it should be rectangular.
does it have the flat tire thing on the side?
It doesn't have the flat tire.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, the 360 had that because it was a kind of a light sensor, so it could detect when it's low light and brighten up and that sort of stuff. This doesn't have that. It does have kind of a lower battery display mode where everything kind of blanks out after 5 seconds, so it's using less battery when it's in this mode. But as you can see, Android Wear 2.0 has all of the different complications, which is new to Android Wear 2.0. So all these different things, I can tap on that little area, and I need to see the time and so there we go. Battery, and so you can program all of these, and actually, there are other watch faces and everything, and they bring in different pieces of data as well.
Okay, so it's heavy because it has the antenna so that you can make calls and receive calls without your phone anywhere nearby, right?
Yes, so it can work in standalone mode. This has the LTE antenna in it with a SIM card, so I could, make calls, text messages directly from here. The band itself is rigid right up here at the top. That's because that's where the antennas are. So you can't swap out the bands. So you're stuck with this band.
It's a nice band, but I do like being able to switch out the bands.
Yeah, it's a nice band, but I mean, bands, that's one way that people customize a watch to make it right for them. What I realized when I got in and started looking at this earlier today is that within like minutes whether this is the right smartwatch for you. You put it on your wrist, and it doesn't take very long to know, like, this works for me or whatever. I felt right away like this just does not work for me. It's too big and bulky. It's uncomfortable. Like, and I've played around a little bit with the Tag Heuer Connected, which is a bigger Android Wear watch as well, and that one was like crazy comfortable compared to this. This one just felt.
Here, can I try it?
Yes. Don't expect to do much with it because the pin is activated.
Right.
But
well, I know what your pin is.
Okay, good.
I saw it.
So this is $349. I think the Everything okay over there?
Well,
I mean, that
it's-
is a
the
monster on
band
your
is
wrist. Look at
so-
that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
I like big watches. The band is just so stiff, like you said.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't like this. Is there a smaller size?
There is. So which one? It's the LG watch style is what it
Okay.
is. And that's the smaller one.
Is that the one that
It's,
Flo had?
200, yes.
But
she
that
has
one
I
didn't
think
do
that's
anything. That one
250.
didn't have a heart rate monitor. That one was
Doesn't
garbage.
have the heart rate monitor. Doesn't have NFC, so
Yeah.
you can't do mobile
Android
payments
Pay.
on it.
Yeah. You can make emergency calls. I just made one.
Oh, good. That's comforting.
No, okay. So you can make phone calls from it. Would you make phone calls from it?
I haven't done it yet, so I don't know how amazing that. And I say that facetiously.
Did you take calls when you had my Apple Watch?
No, not on the Apple Watch.
Yeah.
Do you do that very often?
Nope. I mean, in emergency situations.
You don't have your phone or whatever. Well, you need your phone though.
In emergency situations, like I don't know, like the phone's in the other room or something.
But
and
it still kind of passes through your
or
watch or
like
whatever.
my hands are covered and I'm cooking or something, and then I would
Yeah.
just do that and say, "Hello, I can't talk right now."
Now's a bad time.
yeah.
I'm talking to my watch. Obviously, it's a bad time.
I like to know that someone's calling me on
Yeah.
my watch. That is
Right.
nice. But yeah, I don't know. Okay, so will you please exercise with it and see if it will actually tell if you're doing a push-up or a
Yeah,
sit-up or a
because it's
squat?
supposed to be able to do that. I'm actually considering, I'm working on doing an Android Wear 2.0 episode of Android App Arena, and I'm considering making it fitness focused and doing like Strava has a new 2.0 app. There's Runkeeper, and then maybe Google Fit, just to kind of see how they work with this watch and with some of the new features of Android Wear 2.0 tying into fitness. Because I would love to know that too. If it actually tracked things like at the gym, like without me having to tell it I'm doing a push-up or I'm doing a pull-up or whatever. Some people say that it's very good at recognizing that, and I haven't tested that myself, but I would love to know that.
So as a runner who doesn't like to carry her phone with her when she runs, that appeals to me with the call, being able to call. If you fall down,
Right.
you get run over by a car or something. And on my left, there's GPS. The Apple Watch Series 2 also has GPS, but that is appealing to me to know that I would be able to make an emergency call if something happened while I was running or biking.
I hate that it keeps doing this pin thing.
I know.
That's annoying, but I guess it's because I don't have them on my wrist. What I wanted to show you is that it also has the digital crown, so you can go through
that's
apps that way.
that is
And I actually
nice.
really like that. The bummer though is when you're using this sort of an interface, when you have one, like say that's parked on Android Pay, I want to push this to select it because I'm already there, and it doesn't do that.
You know what? I was pushing the button on this too, because that's what I had already learned, that on the Android where you push the button to do certain things
Yeah.
that you don't do. On the
Oh,
Apple
and
Watch.
these, by the way, on the side, these are app shortcuts. So you can assign those to an app to launch directly into it. The bottom one's automatically assigned to Android Pay. So you get somewhere, and if you need to launch it to like switch credit cards or whatever, you can just tap it and then jump right in. But
Does it open your Pixel, your Android Pixel?
no, it just goes right to my Android Pay. So.
Can you open your device with it? Like you can open
yes, I could. With Smart Unlock, which is kind of an Android OS
you
feature.
Could, that's not new.
So when it's tied to it and it's connected to it, it'll do that. Birch says the crown is too small. Are you joking? Okay, good. I was like, I think the crown is maybe a little too big, but anyways. So that's the LG Watch Sport. Oh, I tried the wrist keyboard.
Oh, yeah, how
little
was that
keyboard
working?
interface on the screen. It actually worked way better than I expected. I was able to type pretty quickly on it, and it was able to autocorrect anything I got wrong, and it did a great job. So I'm looking forward to using this for Android Pay to see how that experience is. But I think overall, I can tell just in a short amount of time, it's probably not the watch for me, which is good because it's not my watch. It's Leo's, and I'll give it back to him.
Okay, good.
So there we go.
Well, now we have some feedback. Now, T-Mobile wants to wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day, especially those of you stalkers out there. Thanks to Adam Snyder, who messaged us about this creepy Facebook ad he got about T-Mobile's partnership with Tile. It said, "Hey, babe, I put a Tile Slim in your pocket. with the words, "Never lose track of that special someone." Adam complained about the ad on Twitter. He said Tile reached out and said they regretted the ad and sent him a free Tile, but there was still no word from T-Mobile. Well, this is just creepy.
So it's like an RFID tag?
Tile,
is that
yeah.
basically?
Tile
Okay.
is like Tracker, who is our sponsor.
Got it.
And and I don't think Tile or Tracker really support the idea of putting it in someone's someone's
people.
person
Yeah,
to track people, whether
that's a
your
no-no.
children or
Right.
your Valentine.
That's a weird piece of marketing right there.
So yes, Adam, thank you for sending that. If you guys see weird stuff like that, we love to see it.
We love weird
So,
stuff.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Megan Maroney or DM me. I'm open to the world.
I'm semi-open, but you can find me on Twitter at Jason Howell. Coming up, our cyborg future stares us right in the face. But first, let's take a minute to thank Grasshopper. They're the sponsor of this episode. Grasshopper is a virtual phone system designed for entrepreneurs. Grasshopper works just like a traditional phone system, but it requires no extra hardware purchase. You've already purchased it. It's the smartphone that you already have. With their iOS and Android app, callers can reach you wherever you are on your mobile phone. Grasshopper allows you to keep your existing number so you can maintain your brand. When you make a call, your client's going to see your Grasshopper caller ID instead of your personal phone number that you would normally have when calling from your phone. Simply select a toll-free or local number. You can record a custom greeting, add multiple extensions for your business, toll-free number support here, of course. That's great for marketing and making your business sound even more professional. You can set up department and employee extensions with custom call forwarding to any phone in the world. So basically any phone becomes your work phone. You can get voicemails emailed to you as audio attachments if that makes it easier for you to preview those. You can also send and receive SMS text messages from your business number. Join the over 250,000 Grasshopper customers today. Plans start at just $12 per month, and you have a full 30-day money-back guarantee to check it out for yourself. Turn your smartphone into a business line with Grasshopper. To save $50 on your order, go to trygrasshopper.com/twit. That's trygrasshopper.com/twit. And we thank Grasshopper for their support. TNT's fan of the day is Steven on Twitter, who says he watches TNT while, quote, hanging out with Gary the cat. I don't know if Gary the cat is just like a friend that comes over. He's like, hey, I hear you're watching TNT. Remember me? I'm Gary. And he sits down, or if it's actually his cat. It's probably his cat, though,
Well,
right?
some people don't believe their pets belong to them.
No, they're just
You know?
companions.
Yeah.
It's just companions in life. That's true.
So Gary could just be Gary the cat that,
I wonder-
lives there with him.
Yeah, I wonder if Gary named himself or if somebody named, I don't know.
It is the good question. Things to ponder.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a good question, but it was a question. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup. Post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we'll find it.
Friend of the show, Brian Clark, reports in the Next Web that we must augment ourselves with technology in order to prevent the robot apocalypse. That's what Tesla's Elon Musk told an audience at the World Government Summit today in Dubai. Now, the idea of human-computer symbiosis has been around since the 1960s, and some might argue that machines are already becoming part of us. That was never more clear to me than in the past month when I felt like a limb had been amputated while you, Jason Howell, had my iPhone.
But you still had a computer in your pocket attached to, well, I don't know. Do you carry phones in your pocket, or is it more like?
I sometimes carry them in my pocket, sometimes in my purse. But it was part of me. It was me. That was part of me that you had.
Yeah, right. Your way of thinking, your way of learning how to interact with technology, operating on a different platform. Yeah, it totally is kind of like losing a part of your brain when you do that.
Well, I mean, you think about it, like we are augmented by technology. It's like you ask me a question, I'm going to look it up. Like that's not even, it's like here, we are going to answer your question now. It's weird.
Do you remember the days of like having a question and not knowing how you'd find the answer without like carting off to the library to look it up?
I don't remember those days.
So many useless facts that we now know the answer to on a whim.
Right. Or we know an answer to them, right?
Right,
We know
right.
an answer.
That's true.
It's not necessarily the answer.
So we realized we were talking before the show that like my new favorite thing now is that everything is a Black Mirror episode waiting to happen if it hasn't already. It's kind of analogous to Westworld for you.
Yeah, that is. Once we are watching a show, you will never stop hearing about it. So that is Black Mirror.
But it's true. I could totally see this. This is an episode waiting to happen. I mean, it's kind of happened in pieces with the series, but
Probably. Yeah. There's Invisibilia is a podcast that I recommend, and they have a whole episode about augmenting yourself, like a guy who has the computer built into himself, and
touch surface under the skin.
Yeah, all
sort
of
thing.
that,
Ooh.
and it's good. Biohackers. It's a thing.
Right. It is a thing. It's a thing that I'm happily not a part of.
Yet.
TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, midnight UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be part of the show by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv. You can leave us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW, and you can find us on Twitter. We're at Tech News Today TV.
Hey, subscribe to our show at twit.tv/TNT. If you haven't already, go subscribe a friend, do them a favor. And if you want to see us in person, you can. Just email tickets@twit.tv. Come sit in a chair and watch us if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area. And if you want to tweet at me, I'm at Megan Maroney.
And I'm at Jason Howell. I just realized tomorrow is Valentine's Day. What better way to show someone, to tell someone that you love them by picking up their phone, navigating to twit.tv/TNT and hitting subscribe for
So
that.
true. Nobody likes roses and chocolate anymore. They like for you to subscribe
To
them
free
to our
podcasts.
podcast.
That's right. That's
If
what
it
they're
doesn't
looking
work,
for.
tweet at me. I'm at Megan Maroney. If it's not the Valentine that your partner wanted,
It's like, this is exactly what I wanted. Thanks to our technical director, Brian. Appreciate it, Brian. Thank you to Burke for helping out here in the studio. Thanks to Kevin for editing the show. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye, everybody. I should have high-fived with a
we should high five watches, see if one of them breaks.
yeah, see which one knocks us out of the chair because it's so heavy.